Is anybody there? I wonder if anyone's there. If nobody's there, that's completely fine. I'm having a bit of a meltdown right now. So, as I've been working on quite a few bits of music in the context of Elite recently, and I once posted a tour of my studio. It was similarly impromptu when I did it, but this time I'm going to try and not rush through it a bit, actually, because why not? I hope this comes through okay. I wanted to do this originally on YouTube, incidentally, and I'm not allowed to anymore, apparently. If you have less than 1,000 subscribers to your channel, it's no longer possible to stream from a mobile device. So, after getting a bit stroppy for 5 minutes, I just popped over to Twitch, which of course is all about streaming. So, excuse the wobbly cam. I'm holding it with one hand, and I have I've got a microphone attached to my phone, so it's twice as heavy as it normally is. So it's going to be wobbly cam Twitch stream right now. So just imagine that I'm shooting this in the style of a I don't know, an early noughties police drama, okay? And and don't worry too much about all the wobbliness. Complain to the management. So, right, I'm going to move around a bit. Hang on, let's find a good spot, shall we? Should we start with that? I thought I'd start with that. So, I have a small studio space, and what I'm going to do first off is I'm going to move my... Oh, no, not turn the volume up. That's what... I'm not going to do that. Well, I am, but not on purpose. I'm going to just do a quick turnaround. I'll try not to do it too fast so that it gets all fuzzy. So I'm going to stand in the middle of the room, more or less, and I'll do a quick turn so that you can see, more or less, everything that's in it. So, start in that corner, and of course nothing is at quite the right height for a handheld camera, but there we are. So, and it's all probably going to go hideously out of focus too. So anyway, let's start with that. So, I do all of my audio stuff digitally, so we'll start in digital corner, and then I will pan slowly round myself to the second screen and the other set speakers, which again of course are at the wrong height, and the obligatory candle. And if I go around, that's how I come in. There's a door, and there's... So I'm going to back off because there's no way I can get everything around. So that's my kit. Another drum, another guitar playing there. If I go around a bit more, we'll suddenly get very bright and go outside, so put your shades on. Beautiful views outside where I live. I'm very lucky. And then it'll get dark again. And I got a lot of stuff in that corner. And then I come back round to my digital audio workstation. So, as you can see... Oh, hi 67. Thank you for coming and joining me. I don't know whether anybody else is watching. It doesn't really matter. I just felt like I wanted to do it. I'm not having the best day, so I want to do something nice. And I wanted to update this tour, so I'm just going to do that really. So yeah, and I hope the audio is coming across. Do tell me if it isn't. I've got the microphone stuck in one end of it, and I have no idea at all how it's working, so please do let me know. So that's the roundabout fizzly thing. I'll upload this to YouTube anyway, so the full thing is available. All I've done so far, if you didn't notice, is just do a quick turnaround. So let's get into a little bit of detail. So what I've been doing in ED World recently is I did some work with Ascorbius, and he was very kind to let me mess about with one of his keyboard tracks. And I've done various other bits and pieces at prompting, F99 just gave me planted a seed in my head, so I did a quick track, that Instance to War thing. I have been doing. I did a little music video for some racing that was being done in my squadron. That's my YouTube channel. I did, and I'm currently working on a version with. Thank you. I'm glad it's clear. It was quite expensive, this little microphone. It better bloody work. I did quite a bit of work with a group of people I'm collaborating with at the moment on an ED version, an Elite Dangerous version of Aces High. Excuse me, I'm going to have to clear my throat from time to time. I have been unwell for a week and my voice still isn't right and I keep losing it. So, currently working on a version of Aces High. I've done a lot of guide tracks for the team who's working on that just because I could, and so I did. And so that's one of the projects I've been working on. So that's this kind of Elite Dangerous context for this little setup here. I'm a former professional musician. Not anymore. I teach and I play just for the fun of it, really, for the most part these days. But it does mean I've got a lot of stuff. I do have a lot of stuff. So I would like to introduce you, particularly those of you who've been working with me on the Aces High project, to my stuff, where all the noise is coming from. I think that'd be a good thing, wouldn't it? So, like I said when I started, digital audio workstation is what I do. I work basically. I do have amps. You'll see those in the corner in a minute. But when it comes to recording, I'm not an analog person. I'm very much a digital person. I have friends who are very analog. I'm very much a digital person. So everything that I do is really basically direct into a computer. So if I move my little cherry out of the way just for a second and try to back off a little bit, because getting the visuals on this is really difficult. This studio space isn't very big and there's an awful lot of stuff in it. So let's kind of come down a little bit, shall we? So down here, that's just a PC. It's nothing, it's not all singing, all dancing, super magic PC. It's just a bog standard HP laptop that you'd often see in your office. It happens to have all the RAM, and that's what you need. It also has a solid state hard drive, and those two things together make it a really good music PC. If you go to a store and you ask people for a music PC, they will try and sell you something for billions of pounds. Actually, if you're careful and you're just working on home projects, small projects, and you're not tracking 60 things at once, something like that is completely fine. So that's what it all plugs into. As you can see, there's a lot of wires back here, but then we all have computers, don't we? So that we're all plagued by these bloody wires. I hate them. That little box in the corner is for another thing. It's when I move it around. If I go up, I'll show you what that thing is. It's for that. So in order to control my computer and my digital audio workstation, I have a couple of things in place. So the digital audio workstation itself is, and you can see it there. Hang on, what if I play this? Here we go, background music. It's the thing I'm working on, 67. You will recognise this. I've been working on this recently, just practicing scales in C major. Anyway, so yeah, it's Cubase. I use Cubase. This is Cubase 10, the artist version, because I don't feel like I need the full all singing, all dancing version of Cubase. I just need this one. I'm sorry, it's really Shakycam, isn't it? I do apologise. So I'll try and hold it with two hands. I hope that doesn't block the mic. Might do, might not. Oh no, turn the volume up accidentally. Keep doing that. Okay, so in order to get the sound into Cubase, and 67 and I have been talking about this recently, I use an audio interface. I've got two audio interfaces. I've got three audio interfaces, actually. So let's go back to the Zoom. That Zoom R16 is a multifunctional thingamajig. They cost about 200 quid. You get a lot for your money with Zoom. Brilliant little things. And so that would act as a digital audio interface if I wanted it to. It would allow me to plug my guitar into that, which again goes into the computer, then takes the sound through into Cubase. So I don't actually use it for that, but I do use it as a control surface. I use it because it has physical faders on it, and it means that I use a mouse less. So if I'm moving the faders digitally, which if I get this out of the way a second. Hey, come on, mouse, work. So if I'm moving those virtual faders, then if I use the zoom over here, it means I have a physical thing I can touch to move them. It just feels better. I prefer that. So that's primarily what I use the zoom for. It's also completely standalone. I can record straight into it. I can use it as a field recorder, take it to rehearsals, and I have done that too. It's really quite useful. It also works as a playback device, so if I want multi-track playback behind me when I'm doing something live, I can do that too. It's a wonderful thing for 200 quid. So the actual interface is that. It's a legacy product now. I've had it for a few years, but it still works fine. And some of the outports are a little bit crispy, and sometimes I think I probably ought to replace it because it's not, the ports aren't perfect. If I tap them, I can very easily lose a speaker. But in this context, it's fine. And actually, I like its usability. So that's the thing I use. It's a Yamaha Steinberg thing. It's designed by the people who built Cubase to go with Cubase, so it just works, and it's really useful because it just works. There's no faffing. With digital audio stuff, faffing is the order of the day, and anything that reduces faffage is good. So I've got that. Excuse me. Now, I also have a third audio interface, which again doesn't get used as one, and that is, oh look, I think we've seen this before somewhere, haven't we? Line 6UX1, and I have that because it comes loaded with amp modelling software. So although when I first started messing about with digital amp modelling and stuff, that was my audio interface, it isn't anymore. But in order to make the amp modelling software that I use from it work, it lives in that. It doesn't live in my computer, so it has to be connected. So that's all that's there for. It's just basically it's essentially a second PC that runs that bit of software fundamentally. So that's kind of how things go in and where they go into. Once they get in, I've mentioned amp modelling software, and that one there, can you see that? That is one I've just bought. This is my current. This is just the best guitar amp modelling thing I have ever encountered. It's just unbelievably good, and so easy to use, so intuitive, and the tones are just incredible. And that's the Neural DSP Pliny archetype thing. It was designed in it was designed together with Pliny, who's an extraordinary guitar player, and he's put all of his knowledge and skill into this, as have Neural DSP, who have a very good track record in plugins anyway. And it's just, I can't imagine ever needing another plugin. It's so versatile, and the tones are amazing. So I use that, and I got that. So that's the kind of digital side of things. In speaker terms, I use these little Yamahas. They're modelled after a very famous near-field studio amplifier, the NS10, and the white speakers are the giveaway. That was the trademark of the NS10, and they're not quite like the NS10s, but they're a good approximation. As far as I understand it, I've not ever experienced genuine NS10s independently, so I've heard them in the context of a studio with other things going on, but never really you know, with the opportunity to analyse them. So there they are. I have those. They're very, very, very flat. It took me quite a long time to learn how to mix with them, and even now, I'm not sure that I still really know. Genuinely flat responses is something that, as listeners, we're not used to, and it really takes some adapting to. So there we go. Speakers. And above those are admissions, and they are attached to that Denon. And over here, behind my laptop, iPad, back there, where is it? There it is. Back there, there's a CD player. So the CD player is just so that I can listen to and play reference tracks. So when I'm mixing stuff or I'm doing some mastering and stuff like that, I've got reference tracks. I can listen to something and compare it to what I'm doing, and then feel inadequate, and then go and cry and make a cup of coffee. I can also use it to play back the things that are being played through the super flat NS10s, and decide whether or not on a normal hi-fi they sound too thin, too fat, too muddy. So it's a really useful thing to have. And I've got some albums. And some of the things I tend to use for reference. We've got, what have we got? Oh, we've got Machine Heads of Blackening, we've got Faith No More, we've got The Real Thing. What else we've got? I've got Ministry back there, but Kill Switch, Engage, and Granny Glasses. Because, so what else we got? What else we have? We have the other thing we have is that, which is just a little. It's just a little keyboard. I use that. This is only a single octave keyboard, and no, it's not a single octave keyboard. It's a 2-octave keyboard, and it uses. It's useful for me to just put backing keyboard parts or little thickeners, and I can also use it to mess about with drum wobblers and to create. Even if I want to do extra stuff with percussive sounds, I can use that too. Most of the time I use my kit. I actually play most of my drums, or at least I do when my shoulder's not messing about. So, oh, you like this too? Okay. Anybody who knows me will not be surprised that I have this. What else have I got down here? Oh yes. I also have down here. I also use headphones quite a lot, particularly when I'm recording. I like to record into headphones, not into an ambient room, so I prefer to play into headphones. And those are my studio headphones of choice, the Sennheiser HD380 Pros. Again, they're now a legacy product, but they haven't broken. They're still brilliant, and I'll continue to use them until they fall apart. That thing is a string winder. I love my string winder because, as you'll see in a moment, I have all the strings. Literally. I really do. I'm really not kidding. So, let's back up again. Move my chair back in there. So, where should we go? Let's go to drums, shall we? So I'm going to turn around and back off to my electric drum kit. So when I record the drum parts for all the things that I do and that you will have heard, I use this. So if you're investigating my SoundCloud or you're looking at any of my ED things, this is what you're hearing. So I do actually play it. I'm not the best drummer in the world. I do have to, I do have to edit things a little bit, but then everybody does. I'm not brilliant, but I do enjoy it, and it's I like to be able to play the drum parts rather than just use a keyboard and put them in, program them. That doesn't feel right to me. So if I can play it, then I'll play it. If I come around the other side, it is. Oh, this is good too. Look at this, genuine, absolutely, completely genuine 80s Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden wristbandy thing. I can't remember even what they're called. Sweat something or others. I can't remember what they were called. Anyway, those like that. That's the real deal. That is. Anyway. So if I come round to inside my kit, that has a laptop. So when I'm playing it, I use XLN Audio's. What's it called? Drum thing. Can't believe I can't remember what it's called even. Anyway, I use that to record it. So it records digitally, it uses MIDI, and the MIDI goes into that, and the drum rompler, they're called romplers, I don't know why, adds the samples to it from sampled kits, and then that's the sound that I get, and that's the sound that I use. And the XLN Audio Addictive Drums, that's it. That's my favourite one. I really like it. It's easy to use, and it's got a really the models are really good, and there's a lot of variety, and I can do lots of different things with it, and they can be mixed and add effects to them within the program itself. So there's a lot of extra complexity in it, just enough for me. I'm not a professional audio engineer, so I don't need things to be, I don't need the completely dry Abbey Road stuff that my friend who does own a professional recording studio uses. I need stuff that's, prosumer, I think is a horrible term that everybody uses, and XLN Audio's Addictive Drums does a really great job of that. So the drum itself, the kit itself is a Yamaha DT Express 4. Rubber pads, not mesh heads, and all of this is, I've added, the only thing I've done to change it is add a 4th tom. So stock they come with 3, I've added a 4th tom, and I've also added, if I can come down, oops, sorry, excuse me, sorry for the bang. I've also added a 2nd pedal, so it's because I'm a raging metalhead basically, I had to have double pedal, so I do. What else do we got? So that's the kit, all processed through the brain, but the brain really just transfers the MIDI. The internal sounds are not good enough to use to record, they're just not. So it's okay if they're alright if you're playing with a local church band or something, but recording it, forget it. So I just send the MIDI signal out to the computer and the computer does the rest. So that's my kit. Let me see now. Bum, bum, bum. Do you like my wallpaper? I got it because studio's always black. Why are they always black? They are, and I fell into that. I don't know why. But I wanted something that was sort of reminiscent of treble clefs and bass clefs, but not overtly. And if you kind of think about it, you think, oh yeah. See, so that's my wallpaper. The drum kit is on a riser. It's on an insulating board, so that is designed to keep some of the impact away from the floor. It's all on acoustic foam, which reduces the amount of vibration that goes through to the floor, so I don't disturb my neighbours too much. So what else have I got? So let's go to an oddity. I have an oddity. Look, you like this? I have one of these. It's a Pickmaster. I can make my own picks if I want to. And I've made them out of all sorts of things. If you come over here again, we'll look at the beautiful, beautiful Pliny thing for a moment while I fiddle about. So down there, in there, that's my little pick tray. I have quite a few of them. Different weights for different things, depends what I'm doing. And let's find the camera. Where's the camera? There it is. So that's what I made up for credit card. And what else? Oh yeah, I've got this one. I had a play with making one out of really, really, really thin clear perspex. I don't know if you can even see it. There it is. Look. It's a really interesting thing to use. It's you can imagine, it's super floppy. But if you want to kind of, actually the guitar equivalent to using brushes on a drum kit, I guess. That's good. And I made that with out of goodness knows what. I can't even remember what it was. It was probably a food packet or something random. I made it with the Pickmaster. So, there's another fun one here. Some of my friends, my IRL friends, no, one of my IRL friends knows I do this, but she is the only one, and her daughter, because I made her one, and that is that one. So, I have for a very long time been making emergency picks out of Marmite lids. Yes, Marmite lids. They're thick, they're not very flexible, they're quite solid, they wear down really quickly, but you get good grip on them, particularly if you keep the little button in the middle. Where is it? There it is. So you see the little button in the middle, that helps you keep a grip on it. And they're just the right size to make a good, solid, thick pick that you're not going to lose. And it's got texture on one side. They're brilliant ad hoc picks. They're just like an emergency. Go down, if you find yourself without a pick, and you like your picks on the firm side, okay, if it's a floppy one, you're out of luck. But you can pop down the shop, buy a tin of Marmite, take the lid off, cut it very easily with just about anything because it's soft, and then you have a pick that'll do you a gig. There you go, top tip, Marmite picks. So, let's go to the business end, shall we? It's business time. A lot of you will know that I'm a bass player, really. I dabble with other things, but really I'm a bass player. So, that is one of them. That's my Yamaha. I bought that in 93 or 94. It's a 5-string, active, circuitry, with built-in preamp, which for the time was quite a thing. It was really expensive, actually, at the time. I had to get a huge loan for it because I was young and poor. It's a TRB. They still make TRBs, but they're not quite like this anymore. They're slightly different. So this is an old TRB. I still love to play it. It's the pickups, the circuitry's got a bit noisy, so I can't really record with it anymore because it's too noisy. And that's because the older active circuitry and the preamps are starting to get a bit old. It's old electronics, so it's, you know, they have earthing problems and it makes they're noisy. So but I do love to play it. One of the reasons I like to play it is as a 5-string. If you're a bass player, you will know that. You'll see this straight away. The string spacing is quite wide. It's like a normal 4-string. What tends to happen with modern guitars now that are from a factory, not boutique ones, but you know, normal off the line ones, they tend to have a narrower string spacing nowadays for 5-strings. So 4-strings have 13 point something or another. 5-strings tend to be 12 point something or another. This one is still 13 point something or another. Nowadays you have to get a bespoke instrument to get that. So that's an added bonus to using it, and it's a lovely thing to play. I like the way it feels. It's really nice. It's heavy, but it's a nice thing to play. It's got a good solid bark to it, which is one of the things I really like out of bass. I don't like my basses to be particularly passive. I like them to bark at me, and this one really does. So what else we got? Oh yes, okay, toys. So down here, drum stool, another drum stool, good for sitting on for playing guitar. If I'm teaching, then often my students will use that. So down here, this little lot, that's my pedal board. It's my bass pedal board. I don't have a guitar pedal board because I never play guitar live. I never have. I don't imagine I ever will, because I'm not really a guitarist. And it has in it a loop station, which just means that if I play something and hit that, it'll record a portion of it, and if I hit it again, it'll just keep playing it back. Much favoured by Ed Sheeran. It's a really good thing actually for live things. You can get quite creative with it. I'm a bit rubbish, but there we are. So up there, that's my wireless box. It's a line 6 relay, which means that for live performances, I am now free of the plague of leads. I hate leads. I can't tell you how many times they've tripped me up and knocked me off a stage, how many times I've fallen down with them, and it's just I hate them. I hate them. And now with this, I don't have to deal with them anymore, which is just fabulous. The main unit is this, which is a get out of my way. Come on, don't be nasty. Behave yourself. There we go. So that's this Boss ME50B. Been around a while now. I got this from a friend actually, because I don't really, despite what this looks like, I don't actually use effects that much. But it has a quite nice little compressor and emitter in it, which I do use. And it means that I can tune easily, and it means that I've got an expression pedal and I can do stuff with it if I want to, you know. And occasionally I do, not very often, but it's there and I can use it, and it just works, and it's Boss, so it's good, and it's I don't know, it's made of whatever the most indestructible thing in the universe is, which is a good thing in stage gear. And alongside it, squeezed in the corner, is a wah, which again I don't use very often, but if I'm coming over all Cliff Burton I might do from time to time. And that is just a power pack, which goes to the plug and distributes the power around the rest of the board. So that's my pedal board. It lives in a little case. So that's my pedal board. And I keep sniffing because my glasses keep falling down the end of my nose. So, more guitars. So let's go to Bassland, shall we? So, my current favourite, this. That is one of my many Ibanez's. This particular one is a 1305, I think. 1305, 1405, 1305, 1305. Ibanez SDGR 1305, and it's 5-string, obviously, and it has active pickups. I only have one bass with passive pickups at the moment. I tend not to use them, but it's switchable to passive. So if I want that passive tone, which I have done, I've done some recording, for example, for a 70s kind of inspired disco thing, believe it or not, and that kind of needed that, so this sort of thing is quite useful. So I've done stuff like that. And so what else have I got in here? I've got, so this thing has great big they're actually single coil type style pickups. That's how they're designed. They're not humbuckers, they're not soap bars, they're not the P-style split ones, they're not the jazz kind of things, and they've got some serious meat to them. They're fantastic pickups, Nordstrand pickups now, and lovely monorail bridge. One of the things I like about the Ibanez's is that they're tending to use these monorail bridges now, which means that each string is isolated from the other string with anchors to the bridge, which keeps vibration down, which from a recording point of view, if you're looking at string damping, controlling your string vibration, I have been told by my professional audio engineer friend that this is a bloody great thing to record because it just keeps quiet. But that's what it's designed for. It's designed for professional studio musicians, so it shouldn't really come as any surprise, should it? And it's nice, it's a pretty piece of wood. So nice little inlays all the way up, and a nice little machine head. And as is typical with Ibanez's, it's quite compact, it's not particularly heavy, but it's really lovely to play. So that's the one I use most. This is my go-to, and it's strung with round rounds. Okay, next on the list is one of my several BTBs. So next along the line, this is a BTB and it's a 6-string. So these are very, if I come back on it, it's really quite large. Got a really big body, great big horn to it, weighs a ton. I mean, it absolutely weighs a ton, this thing. Soap bar pickups, again active circuitry with a mid selector, and you can see by the wear on the bridge that I've got quite a lot of use out of this. This was until I got that, this was the bass I used all the time, and it's good. It's brilliant. It's just no, can't go wrong with BTBs unless, like me, you have back pain. Yes. So I really badly damaged my back many years ago, and more recently than that I had a frozen shoulder, and the frozen shoulder was why I bought that, because that was too heavy for me to carry. I couldn't gig it, I couldn't play it, I couldn't rehearse it without sitting down. It was too heavy, it was ruining me, and I had to stop playing it. I had to get something else that was lighter, that wasn't killing me. So I got that. So that's my BTB 6-string, and as you can see, great big ironing board of a thing, with beautiful machine heads. You can't argue with Ibanez's detailing. You really can't. They're lovely things. But like I said, this only slightly lighter than a neutron star. So, well, I can kind of caveat that. I'll caveat that in a minute. So, what else we got? Right, so next in front line is my 4-string version of that. That's my, what is it? That's an Ibanez sound gear again, STGR. But this is the 4-string version. It's 1400, SR 1400, that's it. So that's an SR 1400. It's exactly the same as the 5-string, really. It has the same circuitry, it has the same pickups, it has the same everything. It's just 4 strings, and it's green. And there were only ever 12 of these in the country, and I've got one of them, the green ones. And it's really cool. At the moment, it's strung with flat wounds. I probably can't show you that. I doubt the detail would come through. I can try. It's got flatties on it because, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm working on a project to do an ED version of Aces High by Iron Maiden, and that was just a huge excuse to buy flat wound strings because Steve Harris, it's got to be done, and I did it. And I've not played flat wounds for a very, very, very long time. Very long time. I did when I was a kid, and I was a massive Steve Harris fan. And not since. And I put them on here, and God, I really love them, so I'm keeping them. This 4-string is now permanently being strung with flat rounds. There's just no question about that. That's what's happening. Love them. Again, monorail bridge. It's green. It's really nice green. Can you see me in there? You can see my knees. And so yeah, it goes up. Flat wound strings, flat wound strings, flat wound strings, flat wound strings. You might have noticed there's a bit of an abomination behind it, and I'll show you that in a minute. So if I move that out the way, and I really don't have enough places to hang my guitars on, enough stands or anything, I really don't. I'm going to have to perch it somewhere. I hope it doesn't fall over. Don't fall over. Okay, so behind it, that's an ironing board. Look at that. So this is one of the more ridiculous guitars I own. So this is a 7-string. It's a 7-string bass. Yes, you heard it here. It's a 7-string bass. It's a BTB. If you look at that, the shape and the colouring, the wood, the way that it's divided into the kind of bit of wood down the middle and the two kind of wings, if you like. It's just the same as that, isn't it? It has more laminate layers because there's a lot more of it. And that was heavy. That's a lot heavier. And it's huge. But it's really cool. It goes from a low B to a high F. And the final string isn't wound. It's great. It's like cheese wire. And it's really, you can get really nice chords with it and do all sorts of funny things with it. I used this a lot for a recording project I did once. So and it has kind of jazz style pickups, so it's quite subtle despite its apparent ridiculousness. But it's a really versatile instrument, and you kind of I don't play it all that much at the moment, but it's one of those things that I do play it. And I have recorded with it, and I'm sure I will do again in the future. But it's pretty silly, isn't it? I think it's quite silly. It really is quite silly. 7 strings, way up, 7-string bass. Look at that, massive, great big machine head, marvelous. So that's one of the more ridiculous guitars I own. Behind it is the oldest guitar I own, and my pride and joy, actually. So behind it, if I can squeeze in, can I squeeze in? I can squeeze in. That behind it is, see, I'll get to those in a minute, is a Gibson. So that is my Explorer. It's a Gibson Explorer bass, bought by me from new when I was a child, back in 1987. I have had it ever since, and it's showing its age because it's old now, just like me. And you see all those marks in there? That's where my thumbnails have dug holes in the bodywork, and I've patched it with black nail polish because you do. Those are genuine 1990 whatever it was, 3 Jurassic Park out of a cereal box glow-in-the-dark footprints. Oh yes, from the original release of the film, cornflakes or something I think, probably Weetabix actually, and they still work. They still glow, believe it or not. If I turn the lights off, they are still green. I love them. They're so much a part of the guitar now. They're so much a part of its biography. There's no way they're coming off. You can see other bits of wear on it along the back there, where my bracelets and stuff used to rub all the lacquer off the woodwork. The back is completely ruined. It has a plastic plate on the back of it now to protect it, but it's got a huge great big hole in it from where it's banged against my body, and various bits of adornment have made holes in it over the time. But that's one of the things I like about it. It has a very powerful biography. It's been with me all over the world, and I've played it in all sorts of places and all sorts of conditions, right from when I was a kid, and I would never ever get rid of it. This is my pride and joy. They're scarce as hen's teeth as it is. They're not common, and it's actually worth quite a few bob these days, this thing. So Gibson Explorer bass. You will never see another one, I guarantee it. So that's that. Behind, you will have noticed lots of Marshall type things. I've noticed out of the corner of my eye that the Marshall logo keeps making its presence felt every time I move the camera, so let's introduce it, shall we? Alongside my Explorer, this is the oldest piece of kit I own. I bought this not long after that, actually. 88 possibly, I think. It's a JCM Super Bass 800. Never been modified. It's completely stock. It's a 100 watt head and 400 watt cab, and it's loud as you like. And so it also is the only thing, I'm fairly certain, it's the only thing in the known universe that's heavier than that. And one of the reasons it's sitting in that corner with stuff on top of it now is because I had to retire it. Again, because I had that problem with my back and my shoulders and from 2013 onward, and I simply can't carry it anymore. It's that heavy. The head is just insanely heavy. I really genuinely cannot carry that to gigs anymore. When I had my when I had a frozen shoulder, I had to get the other guys in the band to move it all for me because I just can't move it. It's too heavy. So that is now in graceful retirement, my blessed Marshall. It is a wonderful thing. It's now a piece of vintage equipment and part of history, and it still works. It's still perfect. I've had it serviced actually, so it's all perfect. I've even got replacement cones for it recently because one of the cones got damaged. So it's 100% authentic and it 100% works, and it's 100% loud. If I was to turn that on in here, I would evacuate the neighbourhood. So I don't. What else have I got? So yes. Hang on a second, so let's get a view on that. So the other amps are. I'll come down a bit. I'll introduce you to Godzilla in a minute. So that's my little guitar practice amp. You can't see it very well through all the forest of bass necks, can you? That is my little Line 6 Spider practice amp. I'm not a really guitarist, so that's fine. That'll do for me. And actually, for the most part, I actually use the computer more than I do that, but it's there. And if I want to noodle about on my guitar, I can just plug it in and pick it up, have a noodle. So there it is. It's a digital modelling amp. It's one of the earlier generations of digital modelling amps. They're now much better than they were, but for my purposes, because I don't consider myself a guitar player, it's perfectly fine. Underneath it, I want to move this BTB really, don't I? Let's move my BTB. Underneath it is my current gigging bass amp. It's a 300 watt combo. Again, bought because I needed a combo. I couldn't use the 4x12 anymore. And this thing is was available. I bought it because I needed one, and it was only ever meant to be a bit of a stopgap while I decided what I really wanted. I bought it secondhand from a local music shop because I needed it, and actually I really like it, and I have no intention of changing it at the moment. It's good and meaty, it's loud, it fills the space, no problem, nice and clear. As you can see, I keep all the tones flat, and actually it works really nicely. I really like it actually. It's good. It's nice and punchy, and a 1x15, so it has a 15-inch cone in it, which means that the bottom end, particularly as I tend to play extended range basses, having that bottom end provided by a 15-inch cone is really important. So I can move it, I can play it, it sounds good, it fills the space. That's really all I need, actually, and it's fine, actually. Gear purists will probably tell me I'm an idiot, but I like it, and that's fine. And if you can play better than I can, then I'll listen to you. Until that point, shut it. So what else have we got? There's lots of other things in here. Goodness me. So that grey lump in there is a bass trap. It's just a bit of foam that stops some of the bass frequencies ricocheting off many walls in here. Random stuff. You can't have this kind of place without random stuff. Straps. Fret cleaner. I have... Oh, wait a minute. Oh, now here's the thing. I don't know whether you can see it, actually. I'm going to... Excuse me, I'm going to cover my name. Some of you will know that I've got a bit of an interesting history. So, that... I think it's just... it's probably not really visible anymore. That is my backstage pass for when I supported Kiss and Scorpions with a band I was with at the time at Foundations Forum in 90k. So that's a little bit of personal history right there. Look, see? You're not allowed to stalk me on the internet, by the way. What else have I got? Oh, more authentic gear. These are highly sought after. If you're a guitar player and you like your vintage stuff, this Ibanez Stompbox Tube Screamer, that thing right there is a piece of legendary outboard gear. And people break other people's arms to get hold of it. I've got one. That's an album I did once. Really great artwork by a friend. Yeah, look at the detail. All those things in the skull are little tiny ants, and he hand drew all of that. Brilliant, really great artist. So more guitars. We're not finished yet, you know. So this down here is one of my couple of guitars. I've got 3 really now. And by guitars I mean not basses, I mean guitars. That is Ibanez S series 7-string. It has been modified. I have replaced the pickups with bare knuckle pickups, bare knuckle aftermath pickups, because I wanted a bit of an extra grunt, because as I've mentioned before, I'm a raging metalhead. So bare knuckles hand wound in the UK, they're handmade, and my god, they're quite terrifyingly powerful. You plug them into a proper amp, and I've only ever done it once. I usually, as I mentioned right at the beginning, I usually just record digitally, but once I went to a local jam night and I plugged it into a Marshall, and my word, it was like opening the 7 gates of musical hell. Honestly, bare knuckle aftermath pickups, they had a reputation for being like that. Never really understood why until I plugged it into a genuine tube amp. My god, they're amazing, but they will attempt to kill you when you unleash them, so be very careful if you ever buy them. So that's my 7-string. It has a little tuner, a little Yngwie Malmsteen tuner, just because that's the cheapest one in the shop. The man who insists on putting a J in his name, just in case you confuse him with all the other Yngwie Malmsteens out there. Silly bugger. And I also have that thing, which is a fret wrap by a company called Groove Gear. And it's just a little bit of Velcro with toweling on the inside of it, quite honestly. Sorry, not neoprene, with a bit of toweling on. And that if you slide it down a bit, it helps damp the strings for recording, so they don't ring out quite so much, which is particularly useful for extended range guitars, which have a tendency to make a row because it's really difficult to keep hold of all those extra strings all the time. More difficult than it is on a normal 6 string, certainly on the bass. And because those pickups are really hot in that, they're very powerful, they're very sensitive, so any movement of the strings and it picks them up. So the Groove Gear fret wraps are really a real necessity actually. Oh, I bypassed the guitar. That is normal 6 string. It's Les Paul Studio. It's just an Epiphone Les Paul Studio. I bought it again second hand. It's one of the ones. It's the one I use mostly when I'm engaging with students, because anybody who's not got a great deal of experience, and quite a few people who do, get confused if I pull out a 7 string, because often when you're playing with people who are less experienced, they are looking to you for where you are and what you're doing, and if your top string isn't the same as their top string or their bottom string, depending on your point of view, technically it's bottom, they get confused. So I've got that 6 string. It's actually quite fun to play actually. I mean, it goes out of tune like it was going out of fashion, but that's not terribly surprising, which is okay. If I want to stay in tune, I can use that, which has it's got locking nuts and all of the all the toys. This does not go out of tune. It really doesn't. I have been playing this guitar recently. What you can hear in the background, I did it on this, and I've been playing this, just practicing obsessively for the last 6 or 7 days, 7 or 8 hours a day. I'm having a bit of a moment at the moment, and that's what I'm doing. And it has not once needed retuning in that time, which is quite extraordinary. So, oh yeah, last on the list, last but not least, okay. And after this, I'm going to close down. This is going to be the end. I'm finished rambling. Oh, wait a sec. Look. Some of you will recognise that. That is my iPad wallpaper. It's such a good thing. Yeah, so, and yeah, piece de resistance, as they like to say, the most ridiculous guitar I own, without any question. It won't surprise any of you who know me to know that it's an Ibanez. I seem to have a lot of Ibanezes, you might notice that. Oh, wait a sec, it's going to fall over. I'm losing my voice again. Honestly, it's really suffered. I had this week when I was ill and it's never really come back. It sounds really odd. I can't, yeah, it sounds really odd. Anyway, so, open, stay open, okay, right. Officially the most ridiculous guitar ever. Let's get out of the room. Let's get some light. I'll balance it on something, it'll be fine. I'll balance it on that, there we go. Okay, so, there you go. Oh, look, there's me. Yes, oh dear, shabby jeans, sorry. So, yes, your eyes are not deceiving you. It does have 9 strings. I told you it was the most ridiculous guitar I own. It's probably one of the most ridiculous guitars in existence, and there it is. Jared Dines has a more ridiculous guitar than this, but actually in terms of something that is usable and ownable by your average musician, this is probably the most ridiculous guitar currently available. Ibanez RG9, and it goes all the way down over here, so the high string is an E, same as normal, but what it does is it goes down, it goes all the way down to, oh god, I can't even remember, G sharp, I think it is. Goes all the way down to G sharp. I'm sure it's G sharp. Yeah, it goes all the way down to a low G sharp. It's really quite silly, but quite good fun. The EDs, in terms of ED things I've done with it, the tune I played over that I worked out with the Scorpius was done with this, and Instance to War was done with this, because the honk that you all know and love so much is in low C, and this guitar is capable of playing in the same key at the same note. So I wanted that tune to be in the same key and at the same note, same root note, as the honk. So I use that. There we go, a little known fact. Nobody knew I did that. Now you do. Look. 9 strings. It's just completely ridiculous. But actually it's really quite brilliant. The machine head is just a work of art. It's just, you know, what were they thinking? But I can use it as a bass. You can play it with your fingers because the string spacing is a bit wider and the frets are too. It's really quite comfortable to play, and I can play it as a bass for the lower registers with my fingers, and I can get some really interesting tones out of it. So never mind the kind of ridiculous gentiness of it, it's actually a really good, it's an Ibanez, so it's an RG, it's not a shit guitar, and it's really quite versatile. So there we are. So that is, ladies and gentlemen, the most ridiculous guitar in the universe. Guarded by Godzilla, who I didn't introduce you to in the end, did I? Say hello. Should we go and say hello to Godzilla? There we go. Say hi to Godzilla. Doesn't say much. He just kind of sits there and guards my amps. Did you know that the famous Japanese Godzilla noise, his roar, is made by the strings of a double bass? It is. Another little known fact for today. So, I think that's done it. Well, my voice is still with me, which it's really going now. So I'm going to sign off, and I'll upload this to YouTube so that fully updates my studio tour properly for everybody. I said I'd do it one day, and I have. I would put some more detail into it, especially for those who I'm working on the collaboration for. I thought it might be interesting for you all to see what I'm using, where it's coming from, the environment. You know, sometimes it just kind of helps to think about those things. So yeah, there it is. I'm going to sign off now. So thank you for coming and joining and listening. And if you're not coming and joining and listening and you're just picking this up on YouTube later, brilliant, thanks. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, you'll be hearing stuff from this space and from me in due course. Bye all.